Hey, what's up, Drew? Welcome to the Low Carb Hustle podcast. I'm so glad you were able to take some time out of your day to chat with us today.
Happy to be here. Been following you for a long time, and I'm glad we finally got to connect.
Yes, sir. So same here. Love your content. Love what you post on Instagram. Anyway, you can go give him a follow at Condition1WON. Check them out. But Drew, can you just like give us a little bit of your background, who you help, and like kind of why that's important to you?
Sure, I have two general types of people who I help, and those types of people it evolved organically over time. The first one is first responders and military people who need to either pass a fitness test for entry into the profession or have to stay in shape with minimal equipment and minimal time. So I am interested in people who are working very difficult schedules and long shifts who may have to program workouts with a single kettlebell or a weight vest or a sandbag in the trunk of their car. Um, and I do those because I like helping those folks stay in shape. But the other reason is that it's more interesting because there's more problem solving involved. When you help people in a commercial gym, um, it's
You got a
more
million different exercises, million different machines you could be using.
absolutely. So the other group of people that I try to help are people who are extremely overweight or obese. And this demographic dawned on me partially because I've dealt with some, you could call them addiction issues in my life, problem drinking. Um, but the other thing is that when I go to the gym every day at 5 a.m., there are a lot of people there who I've seen there every single day for 5 years. And they're overweight and they're still the exact same weight they were 5 years ago. They come in every day. I, I don't know if their workouts necessarily the best in the world, but they're moving. They're walking on a treadmill for an hour or they're doing some random circuit of different things. So they have buy-in in getting in shape. So what's the missing piece? The missing piece is that the deck is really stacked against them on diet. I feel like these folks believe that they're doing everything they can, but in reality, we live in a world where people are shoveling information at us about fake health food, about gimmicky diets. And, what I want people to realize is I want people to look at food like it's a drug, especially processed food. And, if you went to your doctor and you were an alcoholic, your doctor wouldn't say to you, the solution here is for you to exercise moderation. You should only have 2 beers because you've already tried to do that, right? You've already tried to have 2 beers. You may have tried hundreds of thousands of times, in fact. You may have told yourself every day for the past 20 years of your life that you're only going to have 2 beers and you had more. So a lot of people need to look at certain foods like that. Processed food, processed sugar, especially if you're a type 2 diabetic, especially if you're severely overweight. The time has most likely come for you to say to yourself that there's certain things that you just need to eliminate from your diet completely. And if you were an alcoholic, you wouldn't say it's New Year's Eve, so I'm going to have cheat beers, you know? So just because it's somebody's birthday, you don't have cheat birthday cake, you know? You
Plus,
need to get
birthday
it.
cake is trash. I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I love what you're saying there about, the kind of cutting stuff out completely. I think that 100% is always easier than 99% because we're the best in the world at rationalizing. And, like I can rationalize anything. For a while, I was like, it's got protein in it. It had a quarter cup of milk. I should eat this. This is helping me build muscle. So I totally understand that. I want to dive a little bit more into that and some of the mindsets around processed food and stuff that we see on a regular basis on commercials, billboards, et cetera. But let's go back to you talking about helping first responders, and especially people who have a more complicated fitness schedule. They're either in their cars, they're working doubles, they're in hotel rooms, they don't have access to 90 minutes and an air conditioned gym. And I think when I talk to a lot of people, we are so all or nothing. It's like if I can't go 5 days per week and do my boot camp classes and have my shoes on and then do my training and then track my macros, well, like what's even the point? How do you get people beyond even just like the mechanisms of getting in shape and the sets and reps and exercises? How do you get people to understand that something's better than nothing. And there's always a way to get a good workout, even if it's not the quote ideal workout that you see programmed on bodybuilding.com.
Well, the number one thing is that you can't outwork a bad diet. So if your main physical limitation is that you're overweight, there's no super summer shred program that is going to get you in shape. What you need to do is you need to focus on your diet. But as far as the workout goes, is a lot of people focus on what's optimal, meaning this is optimal for speed or this is optimal for strength, and optimal means what can I get you to actually do. Okay, that's my definition of optimal. And the easiest way to program these things, and this is how I program for myself, is I do an upper body lower body split, because that cuts down on warm up time. The warm up for an upper body workout is, for me, is push-ups and TRX rows, or band pull-aparts. If I'm in my house and I don't even have a TRX, I do push-ups and band pull-aparts, and then I'm warm for my upper body workout. Lower body, air squat with back hyper. Okay, I do those two things together. I've done a squat and a hinge. I'm warmed up. The other thing is, you need to teach concepts rather than exercises. People are used to being handed a clipboard by a personal trainer, or now a program, right, on an iPhone. But, it's amazing to me that some of these athletes and trainees retain virtually no information about movement patterns. They just see stiff leg deadlift, so they do a stiff leg deadlift. They see leg press, so they do leg press. But what I want people to be able to do is I want you to understand the movement patterns that you absolutely have to do, and then the way to properly load that movement pattern so you can do it anywhere. And a good example of that is a hip hinge. And the reason I use that is it's the one most people have trouble with. Everybody can bang out an ugly push-up. Everybody can bang out a ugly TRX row or a pull-up or two. Hip hinge is more difficult. So if you can teach someone to load a hip hinge for a good morning Romanian deadlift, kettlebell swing, you can do that with a backpack. You can do that with a sandbag. And so if I equip you with that knowledge, you can go about your day, no matter where you are, in no matter what environment you're in, and you can figure out how to do your own workout with the equipment that you have available.
And do you ever get any pushback from people who are like, "Oh, it's not a barbell, it's not a lat pull down, like therefore it's not going to be as effective?" Or how do you handle people who just have like an idea in their head of like gym workout is the number one thing and everything else around that is just a like a poor reflection of that?
Well, depending on your schedule, and this is where the holistic problem solving comes in. Depending on your schedule, if you have a day or two that you're always off each week, I can program in gym barbell work that you get in that one day. So if you insist on bench squat dead, you can do your low rep, heavy loaded bench squat dead on a Sunday. And then the rest of the week is more hypertrophy and conditioning, right? And GPP work. So, first of all, I tell people all the time, for what it's worth, I do very little barbell work. I barbell squat. Um, that's honestly about it. I overhead press with kettlebells. I do push-ups. Um, I use a lot of dumbbells. So first of all, my opinion is, unless your sport actually involves holding a barbell, you don't ever have to hold a barbell. That's a controversial opinion, but it's my opinion. You don't need to hold a barbell unless your sport is lifting barbells.
Hot
So,
take. We love it.
so you know, but if you like them, we'll find a way to program them in. If you're somebody who's away for an extended period of time traveling and then you're back home for a few weeks, we're going to program the time that you're home for more gym barbell work. And then when you're on the road traveling or you're deployed to another country, that's when we're going to figure out how to maintain what you've built and continue to work on your conditioning with something like a sandbag. So,
How many days per week do you think this is appropriate for most people? I know this is probably like an it depends type of answer, but generally, how many days per week should you think people should be doing some sort of weighted movements? strength training.
If you're getting in a minimum of 10,000 steps a day, just doing your job, okay, or walking a dog, or just okay, that's low, by the way. But if you're getting in a minimum of 10,000 steps a day, I really only think you absolutely have to train 3 days per week.
Okay.
Okay. And I personally, right now, only train with weights and lifting 3 days per week. And I'll tell you what my split is. I do upper body on Monday. I do lower body on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I fill in the gaps with things like abs and grip work and calves and things that I would skip if I tried to put them on the end of another workout. There's this running joke that we all skip abs because we do a couple more sets of curls before we leave the gym. Give abs their own day. They're that important. I've had a hernia repair. Um, that opened my eyes on the importance of ab work, not just sit-ups and leg raises, but rotation, anti-rotation, working on intra-abdominal pressure, things like that. Do ab work. Take it seriously like it's its own body part.
I love
Um,
that too, because I think most people don't like, again, just like try to do a set of crunches on the end or a couple planks. But if you have like its own day, you can actually get a full body workout in by targeting the abs. Like you're doing like renegade rows, you're doing like hanging leg raises. So you're getting like lats, you're getting like chest, but the focus is in on the core. And I love the creativity you can bring to a core session.
oh
Like
yeah,
that's outside of just like kind of the regular, like we talked about earlier, the push, pull, hinge, squat, carry.
absolutely. So, and the way that you would do that is, and I don't necessarily consider abs gym work, although I personally do them in a gym, is if it was a huge problem for you, that would be something that I would just tell you to do every single morning when you get up. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Just every single morning when you get up, if you're on the road, have a set number of reps that you're going to do no matter what happens. Do it, check that box, move on with your day. So if you are in a position later on in the day when you don't have time to work out or you have to cut a workout short, you haven't cut your abdominal work short.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. And then so Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday's your fill-in day. What are you doing Thursday, Friday?
And then the rest of the week is all conditioning.
Okay.
So
Okay. When you
it,
say conditioning, are you talking about going for a jog? You talking about interval sprints? You talking about body weight hit workouts? What does that look like?
this is where instincts come into play. And, you have to trust your instincts, but you have to also not just cut yourself a break all the time.
Yeah,
Is
because I feel like I talk about intuitive eating a lot,
mhm.
but you have to kind of earn the right to eat intuitively. Because if you don't, if you don't get to the point where you're eating mostly whole food, single ingredient foods, you will intuitively eat a sleeve of Girl Scout cookies, like I did last time they were in my house. It was intuitive. I just had to do it.
So my conditioning is if I'm feeling beat up, so usually on a Thursday, or yeah, usually on a Thursday, I'm still beat up a little bit from weight training, so I'll do something steady state. I'll do a ruck or a jog or a elliptical or something like that. Friday, Saturday are the days when I try to fit in something that is hit related with loaded carries or prowler pushes, things like that.
Mm.
And then Sunday, we have a weekly tradition with some friends of mine where we'd go trail running with our dogs. So Sunday morning, rain, shine, snow, we go trail running with the dogs out in the woods up here in New Hampshire. And last week that was a snowshoe operation. And this week it'll probably be a snowshoe operation. But we do something in the woods with the dogs on Sundays.
Gotcha. Okay. So it sounds like you have your framework and your baseline for how you train, but you also just have the idea of like I think I would consider it like a daily sweat. Something happens every single day to keep you active, to keep you moving, to get you a little bit sweaty. Was that accurate?
Yeah, and by 7:30 in the morning I'm done. So,
That's nice.
I mean the other part of it is, one I learned this when I used to go of all places to a powerlifting gym. There were these construction workers who lifted at 4 o'clock in the morning because they had to be in work at 6 a.m. And I asked one of them, I said, how the hell do you do powerlifting and then go work as a bricklayer? And they said it's better than working as a bricklayer and then going and doing powerlifting. They said because when they come home from work, they don't want to do anything. right?
Yeah, I
And
get
you need
that.
to know with diet and exercise and everything, you need to self-assess, and you need to put up guardrails. And if you know you're going to skip legs day, don't always put it on Friday, right? If you know
Yes.
if you know you're going to skip cardio, do it at the beginning of the workout, not at the end. You know, and if you're going to if you're somebody like me who legitimately, as you put it, gets that daily sweat in, you need to build what I call a spacer workout into your week. And that abs workout is the spacer workout because it gives every other body part a rest. I'm not
Yeah.
running that day. I'm not pressing. I'm not squatting. It's a rest day for everything else. And then
That's smart.
the other part with this that a lot of people get hung up on is if you're training for a specific test for entrance into a profession, like a police officer, firefighter fitness test, you actually have to train for the test. Okay. So, one of the things I recommend is no matter what your general fitness protocol is, I recommend running the actual test once per week, usually on a Sunday. And people get caught up in, how many times have I done a push up as a cop, or how many times have I run 2 miles? And what I tell them is, I say that's not relevant. Of course, the exercises are supposed to carry over to the job, but the point is this: you know the test in advance, and you know the answers in advance. Okay, your ability to pass that test is a direct indication of how much you want to get into the profession. If you show up for a police officer test and you don't do enough push-ups, it's your fault. Okay, because you knew how many you had to do. So that's one thing. Is you prioritize strength, you care about having a big bench, fine, we're going to keep your bench high. But you're also going to be able to do push-ups because that's going to run the test. And I talk to people all the time who say, oh, I'm afraid of losing muscle mass in the police academy. Oh, I'm afraid of, my squat and my bench going down at basic training. And I go, well, then don't go into the police. I mean, like if you
Yeah, like what do you
prioritize,
want more?
yeah, what do you want more? That's like saying I really want to do an Ironman triathlon, but I think my deadlift's going to go in the tank. I'd say, well, then pick.
Yeah, like the saying is like someone who tries to catch two rabbits like misses both, right?
Exactly.
And I think that a lot of times people end up with this. Maybe not like I don't see it quite as much with like law enforcement and first responders because I don't really that's not my target demographic really. But people who come in and we're like, I want to build muscle and I also want to lose fat and I'm also training for a marathon. I'm like, hold on, like those are three completely disparate goals with different training methodologies that are not going to be in alignment with each other, really. So pick the one you want, pursue it wholeheartedly until you get to the end result, and then we can switch it up. So
Yeah, and
I agree with you there.
the other thing that's magical about diet, that I mention to people is everybody thinks people who are trying to gain weight all claim that they eat all the time, and
Oh
people
yeah.
who are trying to lose weight claim that they've done everything and they can't lose weight. So, back of the envelope here is to give people a benchmark when you're starting off. As I say, figure out your maintenance calories, okay? And if you want to bulk, add 500 to that number. If you want to cut, subtract 500 to that from that number.
How do you
Um,
figure out maintenance calories? I have a couple methods, but I'm curious what yours
so
is.
I say there's probably no correct method because it's a lot of throwing darts and just seeing what you hit.
Totally.
With me, I tell normal-ish people who are not athletes but also not wildly out of shape, is I say multiply your body weight by between 12 and 15. Okay, multiply your body weight between 12 and 15. So back of the envelope math, it's not really hitting me right now, but 15 would be if you were 200 pounds, that would be 3,000 calories. Okay. So, and everybody says, oh, that's way too many calories. And I say, it's not way too many calories. You just are underestimating how much you eat on a regular basis.
Isn't
So,
people are off by usually about 40%, I see.
so that 200-pound man, I'm going to tell him 3,000 calories, eat that for like 2 weeks, get on the scale, see if you've gained or lost. If you're exactly the same, congratulations, you just found your maintenance calories. Now, the second thing is get 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day because everybody thinks they're getting enough protein. You mentioned, and then we had a discussion on Instagram about this. You said you like 1.5, and I like 1.5, but the getting people to even one is such a huge. I had a conversation with somebody the other day who said they were reading a book, and the book, I don't know who the author was, told them to get 30 or 40 grams a day. And I said, I don't think I'm completely out of line. And this person was very athletic, by the way. I said, I don't think I'm completely out of line here, but I said, if you were to ask like a sports nutritionist, like somebody writing a program for athletes in a collegiate training program, and I'm not talking about offensive linemen, I'm talking about soccer players or field hockey players or baseball players, they would tell you that the minimum is about 1 gram per pound of body weight. So a 200-pound person on 200 grams. And once you dial those two things in, maintenance calories and grams of protein, the rest of it becomes a lot easier, because then you realize there are only certain kinds of foods you really can have. You know, you're not going to burn an inordinate amount of calories on a highly processed piece of food that has no protein. You know, it basically knocks breakfast cereal out of your diet. You know what I mean? Things like
Yep.
that. You look at food like calories and protein, and the 500 calorie deficit. The reason I like that is it puts you on a trajectory to lose approximately 1 pound a week. And in my experience, and everybody, of course, needs to lose weight faster, right? It took them 10 years to get overweight, but they really need to be ripped you know, for this summer vacation. I tell them, first of all, if you do anything too drastic, you're going to crash and burn, and then you're going to slingshot back. Okay.
Every time. Works
So,
every time.
so every single time. So you want to make it slow and sustainable. And they'll say, well, that's too slow. I need to lose weight faster. And so, well, then you should have started earlier, but you didn't. So look at it this way. I lost 50 pounds in a year, 1 pound a week. I went from 270 to 220 in 1 year on this protocol. Maintenance calories, gram of protein per pound, 500 calorie deficit, 1 pound a week equals 50 pounds or 52 pounds in a year.
And I mean, like that is fast, technically. Like people don't even realize that 50 pounds in a year, like our year is going to pass no matter what. Would you rather like have gained and lost the same 10 pounds because you tried to do something really unsustainable, lost weight, hated it, gained it back? Or would you rather just like kind of put it in slow and steady? I always say like one of our core values of $1 Million Body is do the boring work. You know, this stuff is not that exciting if you're starting to do it. It's not that exciting to do a dumbbell row over and over and over and over again. It's not that exciting to eat chicken like every single day and eat 6 eggs every single day for the rest of your life. It's not that exciting. So can you handle it? There's a quote I really like by a guy named Gustave Flaubert. He says, be boring and orderly in your life so that you may be violent and creative in your work. And I love that because it's like puts the emphasis on what's actually important.
Well, every day when I wake up, my alarm goes off at 5 a.m. And the first thing I think of is I say, today would be a pretty good day for a rest day, right?
Every
And
day.
but then what ends up happening is I say, well, I got to wake up and let the dog out, right? And then I say, well, since I'm up, I might as well feed the dog, and I might as well make myself a cup of coffee. And then the momentum just starts taking care of itself. And all of a sudden I'm at the gym. And then all of a sudden I'm back from the gym. And then, I mean, it's just, if you just set the process in motion and you make it routine, the discipline equals freedom thing is absolutely correct. Is you have the freedom to do almost anything you want. I mean, the vicious cycle, that I spent part of my life in of losing and gaining weight because you do some fad diet and then, 1,000 calories a day, right? And then you obviously can't do that forever, so you swing back, and then you're depressed and you feel like you failed. And if I can give somebody a protocol where you don't have to keep asking me what to eat for the rest of your life. I'm going to tell you how to figure it out on your own. And once you figure it out on your own, that's where the freedom comes in. And back to the people I mentioned at the gym who are still overweight and it's been 5 years, and you know the deck is stacked against people rebrand um, poison and very unhealthy stuff as health food.
What are the top contenders for the like worst health foods out there in your opinion?
anything that makes claims on it, like high protein or high vitamin C, or you know,
Hmm.
is usually hiding something. I'll say that doesn't mean an orange is high vitamin C, but you wouldn't see that on a package of oranges, right? You wouldn't see high protein on a package of pork chops, right? But you do see high protein on various types of candy. You see it on various types of plant-based foods. I think the worst contender, and I may catch a little heat for this comment. One of the worst is actually the I don't want to say all plant-based, but certainly the fake meat industry. And the reason I feel that way is, 15, 20 years ago, whenever people started doing paleo, they started reading labels for the first time in their life. They'd look at a label and they'd say, why is there corn and soy in my hamburger patty? Right? Why is there vegetable oil in this package of sausages? It doesn't make any sense. So one of the things that happened, and this constantly happens with food, it happens with other industries, is the companies that made that stuff took a big hit, so they had to rebrand a lot of those items that they couldn't sell anymore. So if you read the components of a Beyond Meat burger or something similar, there, a lot of them are usually things that people who did paleo eliminated from their diet, and they had to sort of rebrand and repackage them as a health food. Corn, soy, vegetable oil, um, different types of preservatives. One of the things I tell people, and I'm careful here, is there are a lot of plant-based foods that are fine. I mean, I eat plant-based mayo, but it's just mayo made from avocados. So I mean, so you know, I think almond milk is fine. I don't drink a lot of it, but it's literally, you can buy it zero sugar. It has protein in it. It's not a bad option. But fake meat is a contender. Certainly, breakfast cereal is a contender. Granola is a huge contender. Um, Anything labeled whole grain, and I don't necessarily even think whole grain is bad. I just think that when you label something whole grain, like whole grain pizza, right? Like whole grain frosted flakes, right? Like it's like gluten-free Skittles, right? It's a marketing gimmick.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of contenders out there. I think fat-free is a big one, because a lot of things that are fat-free, like salad dressing, make up for it by just adding more sugar. So, you know,
That's good stuff. That's good advice there. Yeah. And something to keep in mind when you're looking at boxes that you're not like, if something has to say that it's got 8 servings of whole grains in it, it's probably not the choice you should really be making.
right.
Look, looking at you breakfast cereals. Drew, this has been fascinating. I love kind of your focus on uh, the like helping people who are obese get down to a healthy weight and helping first responders really improve their fitness and make sure that they are ready whenever like the time comes. I think that goes back to your like username on Instagram, condition one, like being ready when necessary, being kind of that, having that warrior in the garden mentality. If anyone's looking to get in touch with you or someone wants to like experience kind of your level of coaching around, being a first responder or dropping weight from being obese to being healthy, what's the best way to do that?
Look for me on Instagram. It's condition one, condition WON, all one word. Just shoot me a
Awesome.
DM and get the conversation started. I love to help people. And, my goal, like I said, unlike a lot of people, is I don't want you to be dependent on me forever. I want to equip you with the knowledge to where you can go off in the world and you can exercise that discipline equals freedom mindset, and you can go about your day and you can know how to program a workout and you can know how to program a diet.
Awesome. Before we jump off, anything else you want to leave us with today?
Man, I don't think so. I don't think so. I just really appreciate your time. It's for all the bad things on social media ever since the pandemic, it's really opened up my world, and I've met a lot of very interesting people and made a lot of great connections. So, parting thought is that for all the heat that social media takes, there's a lot of good out there. And if you like this podcast, this came about because of social media.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.